Hello, hello, hello. I am Rosalind Brown of Your Wealth Guidance, where we help Black women create their financial independence map and identify the tools for success so you can live life on your own terms. Thank you so much for being with us today. Be sure to hit the subscribe button, turn on notifications so you never miss one of our great speakers. And so we have a returning speaker. I'm super excited because this is Monday. Depending on how your workday went, you probably like, listen, I ain't trying to go back. maybe not by Tuesday. But we have Roshida Dowe, also known as Sheeta's on the Loose, maybe also known as Sheeta D, and she helps women take their sabbatical, take a break, just walk away altogether. And she is also the co-founder of the Exodus Summit. Hopefully you have joined and you've bought your ticket already. I dropped it in the description. If you haven't, I'll drop it in the description. I'll drop it in the notes as well. But her goal is to make sure that we can be like, I ain't having this. I need to breathe. I need a moment. I might need 10 moments.
10 moments. Yes. Yes.
And walk away.
Yes.
Strong Black women know we are deserving Black women on a journey to live our own life on our own terms, whatever that looks like.
Yes.
And so, Roshida, tell us first about the Exodus Summit and just tell us a little bit about what we should expect, what's to come, and then how it came about.
Okay, so I'll start with how it came about. I met Stephanie Perry online. I was helping women figure out how they could take their own career breaks and bop around the world. And someone who I was helping told me that they had spoken to Stephanie as well about house sitting. So Stephanie and I met online. I interviewed her for my YouTube channel. See how things happen? We ended up doing a YouTube series together. And then maybe about 6 months later, she was one of our interviewees said, you guys should do like a summit for Black women. And this was like the beginning of the pandemic. No, this was 2019. This was winter, like November 2019. So when she said like an event, like a live event, I was like, baby, I'm barely holding on trying to do this interview with you online, right? Like we're interviewing 10 women from a comfort of our own home wearing shirts and no pants, right? Like I don't see a whole live event coming from this. And then 2020 happened. The pandemic happened. Sometime during the pandemic, Stephanie was like, let's do a summit. And I'd forgotten that I'd already said no to this. And Stephanie has a way of getting to say yes. So she had created a pitch deck for me. In case I didn't even know it existed. She had points. She had points to make. But I was just like, sure. Like worst case scenario, we do this event is like terrible and everyone hates us, right? Like, okay. And that was 2020. We did it follow-ups of 2020. We had 54 speakers over 7 days. Don't do that. Hi, friends. Don't do that. Not by yourself. Don't do that. Because we were talking about the whole platform was about building more ease into your life and having like doing less. And child, I never done that much in my life before. Like September 2020 the most tired I remember being in my life. Because I was like, and I've studied for for 2 bar exams, but I was still like, whoa, there's always something more to do. Like, when it's your own thing and it's like, I have to do this, I have to do this, I have to do this. I mean, you wake up thinking about the things you have to. Anyway, that was September 2020. In September 2021, we brought back women who attended in September 2020 and who had moved abroad or taken a sabbatical in the year since the summit. And they talked to us about their experience, what they learned from the speakers the first year, how they implemented, how they went from inspiration, which we like, to action, which we like truly love. Like implementation and action is what we're all about. So it's great to be inspired. Come to these events. I sign up for all kinds of online events, and either I don't watch it or I watch it like while I'm doing something else, or I kind of BS my way through it. But that rarely leads to action. So the women who came, who showed up, who paid attention, and who took action and made progress in their life from that, we applaud them and we had them come back in 2021. This year's Exodus Summit is all about getting the money you need to move abroad. Because I don't know if you're in any of the expat groups, but in all of them, at least a couple times a week, someone says, "What jobs y'all be doing to move abroad?" Like, yo, is your hiring? Like, how y'all do that? I need a job. And so we wanted to show women different income streams they could create with, for some of these income streams, it's going to be with no starting capital, right? It's just what you have in your head and maybe like, I don't know, $20 a month for a calendar platform, right? Or calendars, something like that. Like, how can you go with little to no capital to create an income stream that can support you while you're home making your plan to move abroad and while you're abroad? So these are all portable income streams. These are all things that won't keep you tied to one location, because that's the most important thing to us. We want our women to know that they can go anywhere, right? Like, anywhere you can go, you can take this with you, because for most of them, it's like, it's up here, right? Like, and as a Black woman, we got a lot up here. There's a lot of stuff we know how to do, but sometimes we feel like if we haven't been formally trained in it, or if we think someone else does it better, or someone else has a bigger platform, we feel like we can't monetize it, right? Like, who am I to make money teaching women how to braid? Well, if someone could come teach me how to braid, like, I would pay you, because I don't know. Like,
yeah, that's not my skill. That's not
right.
Like, I still can't cornrow nobody hair. I can't. Yeah, just
listen. I'm trying to crochet and looking at it like,
just
who gonna call me out?
Yeah, because I watch the YouTube videos, and it's
right. Like, you can watch YouTube videos on that, but if you know how to do it, and you can set up a course where a woman can come in and take, like, this is how to cornrow, and this is how to do box braids, and this is how to do that, and like build on the skills. That's a product, right? That's a product. And we want women to know that they have products and services already in their brains. Like, if you are a Black woman, your friends are calling you a couple times a month trying to ask you how to do X thing. Someone has called you like, "Hey girl, I need to do this. I don't really know how to do this, but I know you know how to do this. So can you help me?" Right? Or your family. Your auntie keep calling you, asking you how to do X, Y, and Z. Right? Like, that is a marketable skill, and you don't have to be, I mean, unless it's something like therapy, right? Like, there are things you need to be licensed to do, and we're not telling you to go do those unlicensed. But if it's, if you are a plant expert or something like that, or not even a plant expert, if you can keep them alive, right? If you can keep plants alive, you are 20 steps better than most humans on earth, right? Like, so maybe you can teach something like that. And it's not just teaching. There are a lot of different things we're talking about, but it all comes down to, you don't need more skills, more training. You don't need to be more than who you are yourself to start making money, right? You can do that. You can do all the things, because we love to do all the things.
Don't need another degree.
We love to do all the things, but you don't have to do all the things. You show up whole and worthy every day, and you have skills and talents up there that you maybe don't think anyone would pay for, but people will pay for it. So we're super excited about this year, because we think that this is going to be a gap for women, like, to bridge that gap of like, who hiring, right? Who got that remote job?
No, that's one thing too, because somebody's like, "Girl, I don't want to create a million different side hustles and so forth." Somebody like, "I just want a job. Like, right. Can I take my computer X? Can I work for ABC company? Right. How do I do that?" Will you have speakers that help with that as well?
We have speakers who will help you figure out how to get remote work, right? So how to get remote work. We have speakers who will help you figure out how to make your job more portable. Or if you have a job, like, if you don't think your job is portable, she'll give you some tips to figure out if it is, and give you some lifestyle advice for a portable job. And we also have a speaker who's going to talk to you about how to get paid the money you're worth, right? She does this for Black women. This is her thing, like how to get in there and make sure you are getting your money, because they are, right? Like, we know Black Women's Equal Pay Day just happened.
Like way too late. Come on, like this is why we tired.
It's September 21st, I think. And so we know we're not getting paid what we're owed. And there's nothing wrong with getting a remote job, keeping a remote job, but get your money, girl. Get your money, right? And one of the things I'm super excited about at this Exit Summit is we have our first keynote speaker, this side over here, Kirsten Saunders from Rich and Regular. Ooh.
Please don't fall.
I just can't tell which way is which on the camera. Anyway, Kirsten's coming to talk to us about cashing out, like knowing when the time is right to cash out. So we're super excited about her giving our keynote speech.
Now, I think that's a key topic because somebody's like, all right, I'm going to do it one day. Or you talked about people and their actions. So somebody like, yeah, that's good. 5 more years. Or somebody like, okay, give me just 3 more years. Or they're saying, I will win. How do you know when somebody's just making excuses and when it's like, all right, come on, girl, like put a date on the calendar?
So first, plug. Our good friend Adelia from Picky Girl Travels is doing a session at the summit about how to know when you have enough money to pursue your dream. Like what is the amount of money? How do you figure it out? But I would say for people, if this is after a summit, you can buy the replay. But if you don't want to, you just want to know how to figure it out. The first step is actually figuring out what the dream costs, like doing the math. I think the biggest gap that I see when I talk to people is they say they want to do XYZ, but they don't have enough money. And so I'm like, okay, what does X, Y, and Z cost? And how much money do you have? And they can't tell me either one of those. And I'm like, well, then how do you know you don't have enough money? Like you're talking yourself out of it. And so if someone hasn't done the math yet, that doesn't mean that they're not really like trying to do it. But if they hear that they need to do the math and still don't do the math, that's someone I don't take seriously. Just to be perfectly honest. Like if I'm like, you need to figure out what it costs, and they're like, oh, but how will I ever know? And I'm like, did you talk to our good sis Google or not? Like, how did you like? If you don't take any steps to ever find out what it will cost you, if you don't take any steps to figure out how much money you actually have, I don't think you really want it, right? Because you have a question. You also have you have the answers yourself. You just gotta like sit down and figure it out. But that's scary for a lot of people, right? Sitting down and figuring out how much money you have or don't have is scary. And a lot of people avoid it. But that's one of those places where you have to bite the bullet and do it. If you want more money, you have to figure out how much money you have right now. If you want more money, more abundance, you have to be a good steward of what you already have. And if you're like, I don't want to look at the numbers.
I don't want to know how much I haven't saved or how much I've spent, those kind of things.
You don't have a starting place, right? Like you don't, is it getting better? Is it getting worse? Who knows? Right? How can you be a good steward of money if you don't know how much money you have?
Now, that was a good question because someone actually in the group, hopefully y'all are in the Facebook group too, in the group said, well, how do I know where to go? And I think that goes back to how much money do I need depending on where you're going?
So this is the question that I get a lot, and there are a couple different ways to answer it. There's a very basic one. Since we were just talking about money, I'll start there. A very basic one is figuring out how much money you have each month and then using a cost of living calculator to figure out where you can go with that money. And some of the good cost of living calculators that I like are numbeo.com, that's numbeo.com, or theearthawaits.com. Those are two that I like to kind of figure out what it costs to live in those countries. Now I'm gonna tell y'all, add a cushion. Like, let those numbers be a guide. Like, okay, this country is cheaper than this country, but don't think you're gonna hit those rock bottom. Some of those places where it's like it costs $500 a month to live here.
You might not want to live the $500 lifestyle.
You might not want to live the $500 a month lifestyle, maybe. But you also might not be able to hit the $500 a month lifestyle, because that's probably people who've been in that city for a long time, right? Who have probably people who can negotiate in the local language. They're getting rates on things you'll never see. You're not gonna see those. Right?
You're like, wait, you sound American. You got some money.
Every time I go to buy flowers at the guy just across the street a little ways, he's like, he tells me a number and I'm like, that's not the number. Like, I know, like, I've been here in the city long enough to know this is not like, these are getting flowers delivered in California prices. Like, this is not the number, sir. But you think, because my Spanish is a little dusty, right? Like,
you're like, you got it.
I'm like, I absolutely don't. And now you got them flowers, right? Like, now when every time I'm like, no, I'm not buying anything. Like, I'm trying with you. I'm trying. And you don't want to negotiate? Fine. Right? But these numbers just aren't for me. It's not for me. But yeah, people will hear your accent and be like, oh, American with American money. So there's also an assumption that happens when you move abroad. Remind me to get back to the second way to calculate how much money you need and where to go. There's also an assumption that everyone from America is rich and everyone in the countries a lot of us move to are poor. And it just... it's unhealthy, right? It infantilizes entire populations. It is inaccurate in a lot of cases. But it's something that Americans abroad perpetuate too, right? Like, of course, you should want to pay more for this because you have more money. I hear all the time, like, well, we have more money than Mexicans. And I'm like, first of all, what Mexicans? Because G-Wagon's pulling in my driveway.
They live real nice. Yeah.
I'm on the bus that costs me 50 cents a ride or less, right? They pulling in the luxury vehicles with their drivers. Like, I don't have more money than them, right? But like, it's a very broad stereotype that's not helpful. But a lot of times when we're having these conversations, people don't leave room for nuance, right? There's no room for like, yes, you can move abroad. People say all the time, like, oh, I'm moving to Mexico because it's cheap. And I'm like, where? Because you won't get taxed, right? Like, and a lot of places you can move to places that are inexpensive, but you're probably not going to want to live the lifestyle because it's not what you're accustomed to. Like, getting those rock bottom rents, some places look rock bottom, right? Like, and so you have to figure out why you're moving, what you want your life to look like, and all of those things before you kind of show up like, I'm a rich American, but I'm here because everything costs nothing. Right, like that. Just there's a lot of
money around.
There's a lot of
struggle. Wake up and realize you got less than less to stretch because you're rich, and having your rich auntie moments. Like, here you go, another tip. Here you go.
There's a lot of nuance, and we can't get into all of it here. But like, there's also when you go abroad, it's important to keep in mind who you're getting your messaging from. And I'm sorry, this is a little bit of a preaching moment here, but especially here in Mexico, we hear all the time. A year or so ago, people were saying, oh, you shouldn't be tipping over 10 or 15% because then you're going to price out the locals and they won't be able to eat at, like, the price is going to go up in these restaurants. They won't be able to eat there. And I'm like, cool, I hear what you're saying. You don't want me to tip more than 10 or 15% because it's harmful to the local economy and the locals. Pero, which locals do you care about? Do you care about the waiter or do you care about the other diner in the restaurants? Now, here in this country, a lot of times the waiter looks more like me than the diner does, right?
Very much.
So I know who I care about. So they're going to get this tip. Like, yes, it will cost you more to eat out, but these people, if they're working minimum wage, are getting and they're getting their whole wage, and nothing's being stolen from them along the way, are getting a whole $8 a day. If I can give them $1 more, 50 cents more,
that's a big bump.
And you driving the G-Wagon, that's not going back to you. Like, please get on my face. Quit playing my face. Like, there is an effort in a lot of our communities, generally around the world, to keep people in these like stratified caste systems built on whatever, right? And a lot of times the people at the bottom look like me, look like some version of me and of you. And so if you're telling me that in order to keep this power dynamic going, I have to identify with someone who looks like my historic oppressor and oppress or do nothing in aid of people who look like me, I'm not doing that. It's not happening. That's not what you asked, but I felt it in the spirit.
But it goes back to a lot of people are saying, don't be the gentrifier. So of course,
But don't be the gentrifier is often said like, if you come in and you tip them more than the locals do, then you're a gentrifier. And I'm like, you think the locals who are working at the restaurant, you think they're mad about that? You think like, because it's like the locals are mad about gentrification. Which locals, right? Who is mad about increased tipping? If it is gentrification, right? If it is a sign of gentrification and a product or maybe the cause of gentrification, who does it hurt and who does it help and who do you identify with, right? And who do you care more about helping? Y'all can get on the internet and call me a gentrifier all day, but I'm not gonna tip 5% in a restaurant or 10% because you say doing so would make it your meal more expensive.
And I think that's a good point in terms of even finding a culture that you can connect to. So as you're looking for locations, I mean, we still Black regardless of where you go. I mean,
everywhere you go, when you grow, everywhere you go.
Black. So as you're looking for locations and you're saying, okay, I want someplace safe, and I hate, regardless of where you go, people are like, oh my God, be safe. Oh my God. I'm like, sweetheart, you know how many folks got shot today right here in the United States? And so when people are thinking about that and they're trying to get over that fear of what are they doing there? Are they kidnapping folks and all those kind of things? How do you come to terms of what's the location and what's that culture that you're actually driving to opposed to running from?
Okay, so I actually am going to answer that question, but I want to go back to picking your location, right? Okay. Which we're talking about. We talked about the budget way first. Another way that I tell people to do it is to write a list of the top 5 things that are important to you, right? Like, what are the things that are important to you in a city that you live in? For a lot of Black women, the answer is safety. A lot of Black women, the answer is healthcare. Other Black people, another priority. Like, whatever your priority is, write it down. Have a list. Have a list of things you don't want from the city. Like, I do not want to deal with traffic or any crime, or I'm asthmatic, so it has to have good air, something like that. Like, write your list down. And then every time someone mentions a city or you think about a place, like do some research, hit your Googles, go to theearthawaits.com because they have a lot of information and figure out where these places land on your list. Like if the number one thing you want is great healthcare, don't go to a country and a country with crappy healthcare is where a bunch of Black Americans are. I'm telling you, it's not worth it. It's not worth it, right? Like it's not worth it to be untrue to your priorities. If like whatever your number one priority is, your number two to your number three, like keep those in mind when you're looking at places. And so to your point earlier about like finding the right culture fit, it's not easy. A lot of times to know if something's a good fit and you're running to a place, it does require a visit. I don't think moving abroad always requires going there first, because if you can move once, you can move twice. Like if you go there and you're like, oh, this ain't for me. Like, whoo, I was wrong.
Don't make that decision like day one, because day one might be rough.
Right? Don't make that decision day one. But if you've been there a month and you're like, absolutely not, pick up and go somewhere else, right? But if you're focused on what it is you want, check out some places, right? Go visit, see how it is. If you're running away from America, which I will not fault you for, I will not judge you for. If you're like, I need to go, I don't think you need to visit a place. If you know what I mean, like just go, right? Just go. If this place is not for you, be prepared to pick up and move somewhere else. Like we only get one life, and the more we sit and suffer because we don't feel like we have options, the more we're being untrue to ourselves and our purpose on earth, right? Like I was not put on this earth to be unhappy or to work, right? Like,
and I love it. Auntie Lou put a few of her top priorities. Y'all drop some of y'all priorities in here too. Peace, quiet, safety. I'm right here with you. She said good food. I love to eat around just everywhere. I want to try it all. Good healthcare and affordable living. There's plenty of things you might not get here in the States. So definitely it's something great that you can see abroad. And so from the culture perspective, looking at your top 5 things that are important, but also from a money perspective, are there places that might hit all the 5, but then you're like, wait, I ain't gonna be able to do
this money. Listen, when I went to Switzerland, I was like, who gonna pay for this? I was there like, who? Listen, I passed by a Chinese restaurant and it had miso soup, a salad, and something else that always comes like ancillary to the Chinese meal. I can't remember what it was. But you know, like that regular lettuce salad,
or something.
Something like miso, like maybe like a fortune cookie. And I think it was like $20. And I was like, that's the free stuff they give you with your meal.
Yeah, like that's the why you wait. Drink this water and
right. Like miso soup is just water with
broth. Yeah, just a little broth with a couple chunks of what is that? Tofu.
And I was like, let me get my bag and get out of this city. This was
cute. Yeah, this was cute.
It was cute, but it's not for me long term because I don't want to pay the cost to be the boss here, right? Like I'm not. No, thank you. Y'all got this. Y'all got it. It's not for me. But I think that this goes back to the math. Once you do the math, you'll see that a lot of the US is unnecessarily expensive for what you're getting. You are being overcharged right now. It ain't worth it, right? And when you get out of the US and start looking at the cost of living in other countries, it's like, okay, so maybe in some, you might see some places that are more expensive in the US. Like I don't know if Switzerland was, the meals were expensive, but like overall, I don't know if it would have been significantly more expensive than living in the Bay Area, but it was beautiful and nice. Like it was just like nobody was getting shot. Like, okay, all right. And so there are a lot of places where the same money you're making now can stretch further abroad. Or my favorite is to go to a place with a lower cost of living while being a great neighbor in the community, right? And working less, right? Like how much less, if you're making 6 figures now, $8,000 a month in some of these countries gonna take you too far, right? Like that's gonna take you to the moon, right? And so could you scale back and maybe leave your full-time job and just do a side hustle that allows you more space for joy and more space for freedom in your life? One of my favorite things that I do now are I have adventure days where I'm just like, nothing's on the every week, every Wednesday, nothing's on the calendar. And I just go wander around. What do I see? What do I do? What's going on? What's out here? Right? Adventure days.
Yes, that's what when everybody else is at work, so you can just be out and about.
Everybody's at work. Also, I'm gonna tell y'all my trick here. Okay, so in Mexico, Sundays are family days. Sundays are the one day that most people don't work. A lot of people, more than the regular days, Sundays are their days off. So if you try to leave the house on a Sunday, you're gonna be fighting. There are 23 million people in the city. You're gonna be fighting all 23 million of them, right? To do anything. And so I don't have to do anything on the weekends because I have the whole week
to enjoy,
to just do whatever I want. And so I make it a point. I don't leave my apartment on Sundays. Where would I go? What would I do? It's people out there. It's real people-y, right? Like a museum that I can just walk into with no line, no wait, no cost on a Wednesday will have an hour line on a Sunday.
See, that's like, I'm from the South, so that's like Ryan's after church on Sunday. Y'all from the South, y'all understand. Like everybody gonna go to the buffet, and everybody lined up and squished.
Everybody lined up,
sneezing over the same piece of fried chicken, like that kind of experience.
Everybody lined up to go to the same place, and it's like, I'm gonna see y'all around the way, but not today. Not today. I be looking at them lines like, I feel bad, but I'm in a city of 23 million people. Like there's a lot of people here. So when everybody can get out and about, it can be chaos.
But I think that's something that everyone should even try, just to take a little personal time and say, I'm gonna take it on a Tuesday, like not the long weekend, on a Tuesday, and just go get a massage, get my nails done, take myself out to eat, those kind of things, and just enjoy the city.
Just go do it. And don't feel bad. That's the thing. We often feel bad about it. So when I took my career break, I took 12 months off to travel in the beginning, it was great. Around the middle, I was like, I should be doing something. There should be like, I started to feel a little guilty that I wasn't producing, right? I wasn't creating. Because we're expected to produce and create, and our value to other people is so frequently tied to what we do, because in the US, what you do is who you are, right? In other people's eyes, what you do is who you are. And so detaching yourself from that and stepping out of that gives you a lot of freedom to figure out, what are the other things I can do in my life? What is important to me? I didn't realize that I liked how much of a homebody I was until I didn't have to go outside. Like now that I don't have to go, like I don't have to commute 3 hours to get to work every day. Now that I don't have to do that, I don't have to go outside. I'm like, no, I like it. I like it. I like it in here.
Just to walk, because you don't have to run, take 10 Ubers, a bus.
Right? I like it in here. I like my life. And also because what you're doing, if you're living a life like this, what you're doing is so out of the box. You don't really have Joneses to keep up with, right? Like, because everyone's doing something different. There's for me, and in my perspective, everyone's going to be different. But in my perspective, it feels like that, like, oh, well, they have this, I should have this too. Like, isn't there, because what do they have? Like, they're in a different city. Like, it's in the communities that I'm in, specifically the Exodus Summit community. It's very much like how can I help my sister? How can I give to my sister? How can I support my sister? As opposed to like, let me look on over your shoulder and copy your notes real quick. I'm taking the test, you taking the test. Our answers will line up perfectly, because our lives aren't going to line up perfectly. We don't want the same things. And it's a space where you're allowed to say, this is like loudly proclaim, this is what I want my life to look like. This is who I want to, if I can choose anything, right? Like this is what moving abroad frequently gives you. It's an opportunity to say, if I can choose everything from scratch, this is who I choose to be, right? And I feel such joy when women take that opportunity, when Black women are like, I moved and now I do this or I do that. It's like, good for you, right? Like, I love it. I love it.
I think you brought up a good point in terms of community. And I am huge on finding your people anywhere. And I love to hit up a stranger and say, hey, I'm going to be in your country. What you doing? And so I know a lot of people are saying, okay, if I'm going by myself, am I going to be lonely? Am I going to miss my mama? You know, all of those kind of things. So how do you create that community so you don't feel alone in this whole new country?
So because Black people are now more, this is a message for Black people in general. If you're not Black, it's not for you, sorry. But because Black people are so much more aware now that they're not the only, they know that in most cities, you can just Google like, you know, or in Facebook, say like brothers and sisters of this city, or like Black expats in this city, and some group will pop up. It may not be the group for you, right? Like you might get in there and be like, oh, these is not my people, because everybody doesn't have to be your people. Like we're coming from all these different backgrounds around the diaspora and landing up in new lands. Everybody's not going to be for you, and that's fine. But you'll learn about other groups in the city, right? Like almost every city has WhatsApp groups and Facebook groups for Black people who are moving there. Join them, right? Like join them, go to activities. You'll meet people. For us introverts, hey y'all, go to an event and an extrovert will adopt you. And they'll be inviting you out all over the place. All right. Like they'll be like, hey, don't you want to? And you're not going to want to go. Right. But the day you feel lonely, you'll know somebody else and you'll already be in a network. So you can say, hey, are you doing anything today? What's going on? Right. And that's not in like a trying to use people way. This is in like building genuine connections with people, but also knowing we all have our limits for like how much we want to see people and how much we want to be with others and how much we want to be alone, right? Like the extroverts in my life, no, girl, don't call me.
Maybe once a week. Just
like if it's a special occasion, I will be there. But like one of my friends was in town and she was like, oh, she met these people, extrovert, and they were going to a bar on a Friday at like 10 p.m. No, I won't.
I'm already asleep.
It's a Friday.
All right, 10 o'clock. Yeah, I'm already asleep.
But you've been here for like 4 weeks. You've been here a month, and you have friends who want to go out with you, or invite like local friends who are inviting you out because you're an extrovert and you've made those connections. And she hit me, the introvert, up to be like, do you want to go? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I do not want to go, but I appreciate you and I appreciate the invite. Next time you people get together, let me know. It's probably going to be a no. If it's 10 o'clock again, it's probably going to be a no.
My phone already
You
on
got some days.
I didn't even get the message.
Days on do not disturb. But after 8,
yeah,
no. But the community you want to create is out there waiting for you. The friends you want to make are out there waiting for you. It's just not going to be everybody, right? It's not going to be everybody. If you're someone who needs a kick-it partner to go everywhere with them, don't holler at an introvert. Don't do that. they're gonna hurt your feelings, right? If you are an introvert and you're like, I love being in the house, let your extrovert friends know, like, these are the boundaries. Love you, mean it, but right. And like in Mexico City, I have a variety of different friend groups that I'm in, and they all like to do different things. And so it's nice to be able to pick and choose, right? Say like, oh, I want to do this. No, I don't want to do that. But the community is always there for me if I need them, and they know I'm there for them if they need me. But you don't need me to go to a canteen at 10 o'clock at night. That's not a need.
No.
That's not it.
I'll meet you at breakfast. I'll
meet you at breakfast. Daytime activities. Daytime me, please. Hit me with a mimosa, right?
And
not anything with a red Bull.
I'm going to shout out Shar Winter, the creator of the Expat app.
Yes.
So another great resource. We interviewed her a few months back, but definitely if you haven't downloaded that, that's a great resource to Expat X, the letter X,
yes.
PAT, app. And it is for Black folks on the expat journey. And she has groups for all the different places and all the different things that you're trying to do and stuff like that. So definitely download that as well. She's over in Portugal.
Mm-hmm.
So a great resource. So a number of different ways to meet up with folks and say, I'm in your country. You want to hang out?
Yes. Yes. There are always people. And especially if you're in a city that has a fair amount of tourists, there's always someone else passing through at the same time you're passing through. So my friend that was just here, a couple of friends she made were people who were just going to be in town for a short while. But then y'all can kick it together and do like fun tourist things together while I'm watching Netflix. I love this for all of us. For all of us.
Gotta get caught up. I got some shows to watch this weekend.
Listen. All right. Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, because we had another question.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody was like, but what if you got kids?
But what?
So
seriously, like what?
This is one of the things, because people are like, okay, I can't go right now because I don't have my money.
Right.
Can't go right now because I don't know where I'm going. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Can't go right now because I got these little people at home. What's the solution answer? Is it impossible? Is it possible?
Okay. So one thing I picked up from, do you know Monet, the traveling child?
No.
She's got an Instagram about like taking her kids traveling, her two daughters who are so cute around the world. And at the first Exodus Summit, we had her talk about traveling with children. And one of the things she says if children live there, children can visit there, right? Can travel there. And I also feel like if children live there, other children can live there too, right? But that's frequently not the question. Frequently, what comes up when people have kids, what comes up when people have young children is the need for stability, right? They don't want to shake up their child's life without acknowledging that the most stability any child has is the adults they live with, right? They're on a new teacher every year, right? They might have a new school, but the adults they live with provide the stability in their life. And so moving to another country, with people do it all the time with their children. And most of the time, like 9 times out of 10, the children are like, this is what I want. Like, I love it here. I think someone knocked on my door.
Like, who is that? Do we need to call?
I think it's just record. Hold on.
The people, whatever people those. We'll read a few more of the things that people are looking for. I know somebody else said walkable city, good health care, parks and gardens, spring-like weather. Oh my gosh. I don't ever want to see another snowflake unless it's on TV. In my life.
But those are things you can find out on the Earth Awaits. How walkable is it? You can Google the walkability of a city, and there's a walk score that every city has. Hit me with 100% city. Like, I want a city that has 100 walk score. Please and thank you. I want to walk everywhere. Other people, it's not that important. Sharice, I just see your question. You said you're thinking about getting pregnant next year and concerned about the quality of prenatal care in Mexico. Are you Black, Sharice? Because if you are you concerned about the quality of medical care in America? Because I would be. Right? Like, the rate of Black women dying in childbirth is scary. It almost feels intentional. Like, how come it's us? Besides, like, being given poor medical care and less attention than we deserve. Less attention than you would show any other mother. Why are so many Black women dying in childbirth? Why?
There's
Right?
no reason. Yeah. Unless it's intentional or
Like, at best, it feels like intentional neglect. I get it, Sharice. The healthcare here, right? And this is part of what I see people doing. And this is not about Sharice or anything. It's about really general. People look for the lowest cost of living places and say, oh, I can live there. My cost of living is going to be $700 a month. Love it. Boom. It's for me. Without realizing that if that is the cost of living for someone local who lives there, you're going to get, in that cost of living, local healthcare, which could be better than the US, quite possibly, or not, depending on what the local traditions are and customs are. Me, I decided a long time ago, I like bougie healthcare. Where them rich people, that is the one thing. Healthcare is the one thing where I'm like, where them rich people go? Where y'all going? Especially when I have insurance, and like in America, when I had insurance and it covered me whether I went to.
Yeah. And when you're abroad, it's like, where did the international people go? And it might even say internet, because I have broken a bone overseas. Came home in a cast and all that stuff. I was like, Google international.
With that broken leg, with your bone hanging out, just like.
Yeah. I was like, where do Europeans go? I was like, oh, okay. That's
Take me there.
Yeah.
It's also really, that's a good point. Really important. If you're going to be in a place, I say over like 2 weeks, know where the closest hospital you can go to that you want to go to is. In Mexico City, the ambulances, there's no kind of like system, licensing, whatever. There are only a few, like a handful of like actual city things. The rest of them are like just people in vans. I'm gonna call me an Uber. Like, let me just bleed out in an Uber, right?
I'm in the back of a scooter.
Right. But
don't do that.
Don't do that. I know if anything happens to me, where the bougie hospital, like the closest bougie hospital is. Because if you move to a community, to a city or a country that is really community based, you need to consider how the existing institutions rely on community. If you go to the hospital in Mexico City, you're in a bed. The bed will not have sheets. Your family is supposed to bring you sheets. You will not have food. Your family is supposed to bring you food because it is a community-based society, right? So in a public hospital, I should have said, like the bougie, like that's why I want to go. That's why I know which bougie hospital I'm going to, because I don't have a community. I have a community of people who will bring me things, right? But I don't want to have to be like, oh, I'm here, especially when COVID was rampant. Like, please come to the COVID ward a couple times a day and bring me food. Like, that's not something I want to ask from anybody. So take me to the bougie hospital where people, like, we're workers who are protected in whatever ways will feed me. But like, get me food, right? You go to jail in Mexico City, in a lot of the cities in Mexico, they are not feeding you.
Don't go to jail.
Don't go to jail.
You know
Your
that.
family's supposed to bring you food. If you don't have a family, what you eating? My friend who went into jail, her cellmate's family brought her food, and her cellmate split food with her. The police chief felt bad for her, so he brought food for her. I'm gonna tell y'all now, she was in a small town in Mexico. In Mexico City, the police chief ain't even gonna know you alive. He ain't bringing you food.
Yeah, that's too bad.
That's too bad. You're just gonna be hungry, because these are societies where community is at the core of everything. And so that's another good point. If you're going to a place like that, where a society where community is the center, and you don't have the same strength of community, it may cost you more, right? Like, that's why you may not be able to hit the cost of living that other people are hitting, because when they go to the hospital, they can go to the cheapest hospital because their family will bring them sheets and meals. If you don't have that, you might want to pay a little bit, go to a place where you're not just laying on the plastic. Right? And so these are things to think about when you think about places that are right for you. I love that this city is community driven. I love that the country is community driven, but I understand that there are gaps that I will have to fill with money.
And Sharice, you made a really good point. She said she's not planning to give birth overseas. But if you go back, I think maybe 4 weeks ago, don't quote me, we interviewed the Orgias. They are a nomadic family, and they are actually in Mexico currently, and they bought a place as well. They have 2 young kids. I believe they're both under the age of 3. So you might be able to see their experience, and you can reach out to them as well. So they do their, they mostly are on Instagram, if I'm not mistaken, but they're the Orgias. Look about 4 weeks or so back. And they really gave a really good story about their process, how they got there, and then why. But they're kind of bopping around a few different places too. So they have a few different locations that they've been, but their home location at this point is Mexico.
Sharice, to your point of not giving birth overseas, so I'm going to consider your healthcare just like regular healthcare. Like, it's prenatal, but it's healthcare, right? It's cheaper generally. It's easier. It's more accessible. Like, you can call a doctor on the phone if a doctor answers, and we'll talk you through the issues. I called a doctor once, and he was like, I called a doctor once for an issue that I've had in the US where they're like, you can come in like a week. And I'm like, I'll be blind in a week. And I get it today. And then I'm sitting there and I'm waiting for like 6 hours to be seen. Here, the guy was like, come in now. There was nobody else there. He had his receptionist go get prescriptions for me and bring them back. And I think I got in and out for like 2 visits were less than $100.
And sometimes you don't even need to go to the doctor, because you can get a whole bunch of stuff at the pharmacy.
A whole bunch of stuff at the pharmacy, right? Like, it's
pharmacy, like, I know what's wrong. Here you go.
I think that's one of the things that hamstrings us as Americans, because our medical system is so bad. We think that's what medical systems are, right? Like, we don't really own and acknowledge that our medical system is like absolutely terrible. And so we think when we go to other countries, we're also going to have to maneuver really terrible medical systems, but in another language. And it's like, no, girl, this is easy. Like, it's easy. You're talking to a doctor on the phone, and he's telling you what to do, what to get, and then you just go or get the pharmacy to deliver. Most of these pharmacies deliver, right? Like, whatever you need. It's a lot easier because because everything isn't run by money. Like, our medical system is about making money. And in other countries, it's not like that. Like, in some countries, like, if you live there and you get residency, you get health insurance, right? Or like, you have to have health insurance to be in the country on a visa. And so health insurance is easier to get because they know you need it. And it's not like, oh, well, you pre-existing conditions and it's going to cost you. It's just like, okay, go see the doctor, right? And so healthcare is one of the things that comes up most often. And I think it's because, one, we're used to our terrible health system, but two, we've also been sold the lie that everything is better in America. And it's not, right? It's not. And so once you're abroad full time and see what all the possibilities are, it's like, oh, they've been lying to us our whole life. Just like they lied to us about how like capitalism was going to save the day, right? And how we have to work hard because that's how we show that we have value. Lies. And
but I think it goes back to your point when you said people expect you go to some country and you're like, everyone there is poor.
mm-hmm.
It's this, and it happens the opposite way too. Because when you get there, people are like, I remember going, I think I was in Kenya, and they were like, are you like from the Housewives of Atlanta? Like, no. No. But it's the same thing. It's that kind of assumption of how the other side lives and what they have, and everything from can we eat the food and those kind of things. And it's like, get there with an open mind.
Get there with an open mind and see like what life looks like when you step out of the constructs that America tries really, really hard to brainwash us with. Like people who, I'm an immigrant to America, or I was an immigrant to America. And so I know quite a few other immigrants. And a lot of times, like when I was talking to someone, I don't know where she's from, but maybe like Dominican or somewhere, maybe, no, not Haiti, somewhere, one of them islands. And I told her I was moving to Mexico, and she was like, why would you ever move out of the US? And I was like, girl, what do you, but like, no judgment, right? Like it's hard for some people because we've been brainwashed for so long, especially if your people haven't been in America since slavery, right? For some of us who we were enslaved, our ancestors were enslaved in other places, right? Getting to America has been a dream for so many generations because they were told it was awesome. And then you get here and you're like, oh, this is a shit sandwich, right? But like, what can I do but eat it? Like I'm here. And we're still like in the back of our brains. It's like, no, but America is the best country in the world. It's the best country in the world. Because you get those messages all the time. Like when you see movies about other countries, you can always see the themes. Like Mexico is like tumbleweeds and dust and like that sepia tone. I did a story. I just looked at a picture of a building that I looked at an apartment in. I posted it and someone was like, that's so nice. Is that in Mexico?
Can't be.
Girl, I'm down the street from like $20,000 apartments, like a month apartments, right? Like I'm like, this is, yes, it's a city with really nice amenities, but we don't think that exists because it's all like poverty and brightly painted buildings. Like we see Africa and it's always like dirty kids with runny noses
begging for food,
right? But like when we go,
they like, you don't have a girl, and I was like, a girl,
right? Like,
you mean everybody got
your own house, right? And I'm not saying those parts of those countries don't exist. I'm saying that we have been brainwashed to believe that that's all there is. And because America has more, it must be better, right? Because all of our children aren't starving in the streets, it must be a better country, right? And it's like, no, but y'all have starving kids. You just hide them.
Yeah.
Y'all should try to hide them.
Too. Like they on the side of the highway, they selling oranges or, whatever that they exist. Depending on the city you in, they might be closer than, right down the street from the White House. They right down the street from those expensive houses and
like we're not going to pretend that we don't have skid rows and houseless people because it doesn't impact it's not anyway. But the messaging we get from America is generally, look how much better it is here than in other places. And so through no fault of our own, it's oftentimes like ingrained and really hard to get out of our head.
Now, Boss Lady asked a good question. She said, "Was that with private insurance?" I'm guessing the house calls or the.
Yeah. So I had 2 eye exams with a doctor. Prescriptions. He injected into my eye. So I had a procedure.
Like
$100. I think it was a couple years ago. I think it was $100 cash, no insurance. That was just it. Cash. He had someone go get prescriptions for me. I saw him within 45 minutes of my call. No waiting. I came in, they were like, write down your name. And I was like, oh, I can't see. It's fine. We write like $100 for 2 visits. The first visit and the follow-up visit. No insurance, cash. And that's why I'm saying like healthcare is significantly more accessible than we believe it is, because America makes it so difficult. Like in the US, those would have been 2 like $3,000 visits a piece, right? For what? You looking at my eye? Dog, calm down. Taking like, he took pictures and stuff, scans, all of that included in the $100.
And you you would have needed like 6 appointments just to, and then we're gonna send you to a specialist.
I went to the dentist the other day and I paid for a package. So I get 2 visits a year, and the package was a cleaning and an exam. And I think the 2 visits were $70.
Now, y'all know how much y'all pay just for dental insurance?
2 visits.
Just for insurance, not even for the whatever you're going to pay when you get there. Just for the ability to show up and say, I have insurance. Yeah, more than that. Definitely more than that. Yeah, more than that. Now, this is a good question that's in the chat, and I appreciate your transparency. She says, I only have about $45,000 to my name, and she's not working right now. Can I afford to live in Mexico, pay rent and utilities, enjoy eating and drinking and so forth, and sustain a decent lifestyle off that $45,000?
Okay, so I want us to step back and recognize that it's not only $45,000, right? Like, we're not saying only that. Like, you have $45,000 to your name. Because we've all been there. We can't have $45 to our name, right? Try to go to the ATM and being like, boop, boop. I can't take out $20.
Is there a $10 ATM?
Listen, where my house used to be in Ohio, I always said I was like hood adjacent because there was a bank in my neighborhood, but you could get dollars out of the ATM.
I've been to that ATM. Yeah.
Oh, you okay?
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I used to work by an ATM like that. So yeah. Mm-hmm. I just need $4, not even a whole 5.
Thank you. I got it. So $45,000 is not a little bit of money, but your question depends on how long you need that money to last for. Do you plan on having additional income coming in? What are the things that you may not be paying for now while you're in the US that you may have to pay for when you're out of the US? And I ask that question because if you can live on what you have in the US, there's generally another place you can go to where you can live on that amount too. So without knowing what's different, I can't answer the question. If that is an amount to live on for a year, yeah, you can live on that. Mm-hmm. Yes. But if that's an amount to live on for 10 years, we should pause and talk about that more, right? So knowing what lifestyle you want to live, because it sounds like, I mean, you said eating and drinking, and I'm like, yes, girl, I feel you. But that's not
how much drinking you doing.
Right, that's not free. So depending on like what lifestyle you want to live, and if you'll have at some point income coming in, my answer is if you can do it in the US, you'll be able to do it abroad. But how long can you do it? How long can you do it for? Depends on a lot of factors that we can't get into right now.
And I just dropped the link in for the Exodus Summit again. And that is the number one thing they're going to be talking about is one, how to find some money. And it might be doing some things you already doing. It may be learning
some things you ain't never done before.
What's the quote? What is the quote? Oh, the Players Club quote. Somebody give me the Players Club.
Make that
money make you.
Don't let that money make you.
Somebody know it. I'm like,
yes.
Y'all know that. You know, you ain't got to do something strange for some change, but there's, some options out there.
But you can.
Oh yeah, and y'all gonna be talking about that too. I did see that. I was like,
yes.
I looked up a couple places to sell them like feet pictures and stuff. I was like, my feet.
So at the summit, we have one woman coming in who does phone sex, but her specialty is financial domination. So we can go call this reparations. She tells white men to dig into their bank account and send her money, and they do. And I'm like, tell me more. So we're going to have a session where she tells us more. And also in the session is a woman who sells feet pictures. And she has 120 something thousand monthly subscribers for her feet pics. And she's made about $600,000 in the last 2 years from feet alone.
See, my feet pretty. I feel like, I don't know.
My feet are ugly, but I'm like, well, somebody give me 3 nickels, right? Like
100,000, but I feel like I got some 100,000 feet. Like,
come through.
Like, I feel like
through.
Yeah, I'm gonna need this. Yeah, let me. Somebody said, yes, my shiro. Yes, queen.
Queen. You making these men dig into their accounts?
Give me more.
They giving you money to see your feet?
Yeah, give me more.
Tell us. Give us the deets. And now, I know that's not going to float everybody's boat. There's some of you watching right now who are like, I would never. And I support that. And I invite you not to attend that session.
But if you want to get your girl 6 on.
If you trying to make that money.
Your mama ain't got to know. It's okay.
Listen, one of our community was listening to us talk about it once, and their husband was there. And he was like, get them feet on the internet. And she was like, wait a minute now.
Gotta teach him how to get them ankles right. Like,
right? Do that. Get those. She was like, now, sir. Listen. But there are a number of topics. Teaching what you know. Stephanie, who has a really successful YouTube channel, is talking about using YouTube to get clients to your business, whatever that is. So using it as a marketing tool. I'll be talking about how to get the information in your head and turn that into a business. So not teaching is going to be a separate thing. So not the ways that are not teaching, how to turn those thoughts into a business. We have someone teaching about how to create subscriptions and like communities, paying communities. We have someone talking about, there's a list, child, it's a long list.
I just put the link in there somewhere. I'm gonna throw it in there again. Now, PL, you just said you are in Mexico now. What city are you in? Because she said Airbnb is killing her. One, check out Expat app as well, because you might be able to meet some locals and see. And then we interviewed Nubia maybe 4 or 5 weeks ago, and she is in Playa. And she does a lot in Tulum. And she actually has a community called Blacks in Tulum. So I don't know where you are, but if any of those are kind of close to you, find your Black folks and ask them to help you out, help you find some place and find something that might be more in your price range that won't be hurting your pockets as much.
Yes, because there's in most cities in this country, the gap between poor and rich in Mexico is generally broader than I think it is in the US. There's less of a middle class. The middle class, I think, is thinner than the US. So there are places that can be really expensive and places that can be really, like if you're renting, really expensive, and places that can be really inexpensive. But not everyone wants to live. A lot of people want the inexpensive price without the inexpensive experience. And so it may require going, like Mexico City is one of the most expensive cities to live in the country. It may require going to a city that has generally a lower cost of living so that the number you're trying to hit as far as rent goes, you're still getting the quality of life you want. But it just takes some exploring. I wanted to mention Ashley Cleveland, who also has a YouTube channel, Ashley in Africa. She is going to be speaking about creating a business in Africa. She created a business, and it's a business that will help her get residency. So there are some countries where you can't work at all. You can't create a business unless you have residency. And there's some countries where creating that business is your path to residency. And she's doing that in a country in Africa. So I'm super excited to talk to her about that.
I think that's a big one too, in terms of doing the research of where you can go.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember this story. I think she was in Thailand and she was like all on Instagram talking about all the money she was making. And they was like, no, you got to go.
Mm-hmm. Were those the two girls in Bali?
That might have been, yes. They was like, are we living the life out here? Now, how do you do the research that you don't get caught up? And they like, go on, get up out of here. That kind of
get out of here. Go get out of here. That's not what we're doing.
But
that's part of it too. Like, some people are like, if I can do it in America, I can do it anywhere. As far as like not researching things. If you put your information out there on the internet, someone who you don't even know, who doesn't like you, is going to get that information. Right? And sometimes what will happen is they will create a campaign to get you deported if you're not living life the way you're supposed to be.
You ain't over there being happy without me.
You out here being happy?
While I'm at work. Is it the cat that's on?
Yes. Be clacking. Right? Like, you can't be out here living your best life when I'm not, because the hate, and now I got to try. And so keep that in mind, that whatever you're doing, whatever you're building, if it's not within the guidelines of what you're supposed to be doing in that country, keep it hush. Keep it, right? Like, find a way to have a business, like a quieter business. Don't get on TikTok talking about this is how you can stay in the country.
Look at my mansion.
Right?
Look at this mansion I got. I'm living.
Right? Because if there's anything wrong with your paperwork, someone's gonna find out, right? So
Boss Lady says anything IT related. She's looking to get into IT, maybe software development. She figured that she could do this remotely while traveling. And actually, the Orgias are still working full time in tech. I can't remember exactly what they do, but they are both in tech. And I want to say they're working for some tech startups or what have you. So that might be a question that they can help with as well. But yeah, both of those are in tech. I'm trying to think who else that we know, but definitely it's a lot of opportunity, especially in the tech space.
So Libri is going to talk specifically about finding remote jobs in any area. But we do have someone coming, fingers crossed, to talk about breaking into tech. So how to position yourself to get a tech job that you want. If you're not at a tech company now, but you have skills that you think are transferable, and a lot of us do. Like, my last job in the US was in tech, and I'm a lawyer for cars. I'm a car lawyer. I am a car lawyer, and I ended up in tech, right? But also, quiet as it's kept. Think about why you want the job you want. Like, why do you want to be in tech? And think about the people you know or can find who are doing the jobs. This is for everybody. Doing the jobs you think you want, and see if you want to live their lives. I'm going to say, when I worked in tech at a large company, everybody was unhappy. Everybody. It was just a building full of mad people all day long, just unhappy. Right? Like, yes, we had snacks, but you're in a building full of snacks and people are still mad.
But maybe because I think a lot of people are looking at entering tech because they want the ability to be remote, or they want the freedom, or maybe they want the money. But once again, you might not need as much money. You might be able to get the freedom sooner.
You might be able
I
to
think that's a
find
really good
different,
point.
you might be able to do something for yourself where you don't have a boss. You might be able to find a different role that's not in tech, but also has remote capabilities. And so I would say we hear this a lot, like, I want to get into tech. And different people have different reasons behind it. But I would say is, see if you can take a step back and see what your purpose is, and then focus more on your purpose than that industry. Only because, like I said, I have friends at tech companies. I've been at a tech company, and child, it's a lot of unhappiness. It may feel like a lot of freedom, but are there other ways you can find freedom? It may feel like a lot of money, but are there other ways you can find money, or do you need that amount of money? Right? But like I said, we're trying to have a session on breaking into tech because we know that people want it. The unhappiness is just, it was heavy. I'm gonna say that it was heavy.
Now, I think you made a really good point. So you talked about your year off. And so, I mean, I definitely know how it is. You're like, I'm just trying to relax. And then you're like, but I got to touch something, clean something, write something, email somebody. And so maybe it's just you take some time to just, so maybe it's not the true break, but it is planning for the sabbatical that'll help you figure out where it's less noise to figure out, is it really tech or is it just not this, whatever this is that you're doing today?
Right. I will also say about tech is that for those of us, especially not older than a millennial, right? If you're over 40, I'm gonna say right now, you've probably worked in some pretty structured environment with structured people. When I started working in tech, I was like, why do they have children running the show?
Big ideas.
Big ideas with absolutely no idea how to actually run a company or to implement. And so it can be hard working for people with less experience, less knowledge than you, and who actually have no idea what they're doing. But for a lot of tech companies, it's, oh, well, this is employee number 6. So of course they're in charge of. And I'm like, just because you hired them early when y'all weren't doing anything doesn't mean they should be like HBIC, because they don't know. So anyway, that's kind of a rant. But the tech environment can be very challenging for people who, especially in established industries, if you've worked for a while. When I went from I used to work for a car company. When I left the car company and went for a tech company, it was like, oh, I no longer work with grownups. And not just I no longer work with grownups, like older people. I no longer work with responsible people who know how to be in a workplace. Because why are you yelling from across the room?
Throwing balls.
A man hit me in the head with a Nerf gun, and I was like, okay, so this is the day. Like, I got to pop my chair. Okay. This is what we're doing. A Nerf gun? A little bullet in the head? I was like,
yeah. Where are people at? I'm gonna need workers' comp so I can.
We don't do this. I said, oh no, absolutely. Y'all, I'm a grown-up. I came from working with grown-ups. We're not doing this. We're not. And of course, then you sound like the party pooper, right?
Then you're an angry Black woman, and now you angry because they called you angry.
Now I'm angry. I'm angry because the Nerf bullet hit me in the ear, and it really, like, it's red. It's a little swollen. It really hurts. You physically harmed me in the workplace. But if I say something, I'm the angry Black woman who just don't know how to have fun.
Yeah, because if it's me, I'm gonna pick up my purse and be like, I'm gonna have to head out. I head out.
I head out all the time. I would be
I'm
like,
gonna have to
"Dog,
go. I gotta get up out of here. Mhm.
how are you speaking to me in this meeting? Crazy?"
Oh, let me wear my purse. Keep
Okay,
it
well, big Viola, pick up the purse
with
energy.
all my stuff. Yeah,
I might come back tomorrow. I might not. I don't know.
yeah, because I ain't got nothing on this desk. No way. It's just it's couple ballpoint pens. Yeah, y'all can keep that. Let me with my purse. Let me get
So there are definitely downsides to every industry, but that's one where I'm like, you got to consider what you want and whether it's worth the sacrifice. Because, child, the money was good-ish, but I got to be the bad guy every day because I'm like, my coworker who sat beside me, every single morning I came into work, all of his things from the night before were just scattered over my workplace. Now I went from an office to having like community desks where like you're next to me, where I'm in one spot, but people are next to me. Every single morning, his things were spread out on my desk. And I would get in before him. So every single morning I have to throw his things on his desk. And I had to be like, why are you doing this? And he's like, oh, I just forget to clean up. Girl, I built a wall of books one day. Up my head, so I can't see you anymore.
this is my space.
And I'm the bad guy now. I have told you at least 5 times to keep your stuff off my desk.
Yeah.
But I'm the bad guy because I've created a physical boundary. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Anyway, this is what happens when I talk about work. All the wounds.
Which, this almost takes me back to the health conversation that we were having. So I can't remember when this had to be last year. So you can go back and look at that one. She is in Senegal, and she actually just posted recently how she has, of no real work, anything. I think she said she lost 25 pounds. She's walking more. She's not as winded. Like, she is talking about the benefits that she is getting without any true effort. And so sometimes your health just might be getting better. Just simply by one, relieving some stress, eating better, because the food here, trash. So just those 2 things in and of itself, you might find yourself just being a healthier version of you anyway.
Yeah, no, for some people, moving abroad isn't what impacted my health significantly. Not working for the man anymore is what. Like, I didn't know, but I was holding all the stress in my butt. Now, every time I got a massage, the masseuse would be like, your shoulders, there's a lot happening. There's, girl, what is happening? So like, I would be told that I was holding stress, but like, I still didn't realize how much I was holding stress until I stopped working. And then I was like, I just feel better all the time. I'm not happy because, like, I truly believe it's hard to be happy in your life when you're miserable 8+ hours of the day, right? Like, those are things that bleed over. Not for everyone. Some people can compartmentalize really well, but for a lot of us, it's really hard. And because those things bleed over, being in a situation where you're unhappy is not going to lead to your best health. It's not going to lead to your joy. It's not going to lead to you living the optimal life. And so how can you get that? What can you do to get yourself closer to the best you, right?
Now, I think that you made a really good point there in terms of just kind of that rest. Child, you ain't got to worry about people mispronouncing your name, saying, oh, that's interesting. Where is that from? Nobody trying to touch your hair, like all those great things. So when you talk, if someone's like, all right, I'm ready to just be gone, I'm thinking about the sabbatical thing. What is the ideal sabbatical time frame? It ain't a week,
It's not a week. It's not a week. Okay, so there's no real rule. I say if you're between jobs, take at least a month off. I talk to people all the time. I have a woman who I was doing some sabbatical coaching with, and before we met, she left one job on a Friday and started a new one on a Monday, and then showed up to me on Wednesday talking about she was burned out. And I was like, baby, how did you
Did that. I've done that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Won't ever do that.
You do that to yourself. Like, and I know sometimes we need the money, right? We don't have time to take off. You need the help. You need something. And so you do that. But if you can take a longer break, a wider break, take that. For me, my health started improving noticeably about, I think by like 3 months into my break, I was like, oh, it's a whole new life. 3 weeks, I started noticing things. By 3 months, I was like, look at me all happy and stuff.
Just glowing and ain't no sun out. Just
I love it. But I think if you can get a year, if you can take a year just for yourself, I think a year, I think a job search is work, right? It is effort. It can be work. And so if you're going to be looking for a job at the end of your sabbatical, on the tail end of your sabbatical, I wouldn't count that as sabbatical time, as rest and relaxing time, right? If you're going to be stressed about wrapping things up at work or doing something else or projects, building a birdhouse, writing your memoirs at the first part of your break, that's not really decompressing time, right? And so think about what you plan on doing during your break and then see if you can carve out 6 months of nothing. It's not going to work for everybody, but if you can carve out 6 months of nothing, I think it's really, really helpful and really healthy. For me, I think about 6 months into my experience. So I was still dibbling and dabbling in the beginning. And I don't have to go to work. I'm confused. What am I supposed to do today? Right. But after I got past that, what do I do with my day? Nothing. And nothing is acceptable. It took a while for me to get to nothing being an acceptable answer. But once I did, I got to really figure out how I like to spend my time. I think when you're working full time, especially if you're commuting, it's really hard to know what you like to do. I thought I liked happy hours because that's what we did, right? After a long, stressful day.
You got to drink and say, let me tell you what they did.
Let me tell you.
Today.
I don't really like happy hours. There's nothing about it. I like seeing my friends. I like alcohol. But I'm not a let's go to happy hour person. I'm let's have a long brunch on the weekends person, right? Or I thought that there are lots of things about my life that did not ring true when I had the ability to set my entire schedule myself and do anything I wanted to do. There were things where I was like, oh, I don't like doing that. I used to tell myself that on the weekend, I would run errands one day and stay home one day. I didn't realize that in real life, I want to stay home at least every other day. If I leave the house, the next day I just want to be oh, I'm on my couch. I didn't because I never got that time to stay home every other day. So once I got it, I was oh no, this is what I really like. I'll leave the house one day. And the next day, the house gets to enjoy me, right? But I didn't know that because I was always working someone else's schedule. So.
Now this is, so Sun, she says, will it be available? You currently at work, girl? Yes, it is available. So you can go ahead, come back. You can watch the whole thing from the beginning. I have a question.
Yes.
And I think this is, if you are looking at anything, if you are checking the balance of your 401k plan and you are looking at the news, everybody, like what Young Gigi said, everybody's bringing up the R word. So if we're maybe we're going to be in a recession.
Mm-hmm.
So people are oh, maybe we shouldn't. Maybe we should wait. For those people that are I don't know, we might be headed into a recession. Maybe we should wait. What is a good answer or response to that?
I think my answer to that is, are you waiting with purpose or are you waiting with fear? Right? Because what is the waiting going to do that's different than being abroad or not having a plan? Like what is the weight? Is the weight fear? Is the weight fear talking? And if so, what are you afraid of? Right? Or is the waiting, we're going to be intentional and ride like, okay, so I had a plan pre-recession, but now that we're in recession, I think I need to tweak the plan and do something differently. That's action. That's implementation. But just like, I think it's not a good time. That's not like, what are the markers that would make it a good time? What are you doing in the meantime to get ready to do the thing you want? Unless it's not really a thing you want and a thing you're just talking about. And that's okay too, right? But anything you want, if you delay it, let it be an intentional delay. Let it be a delay with a plan. Let it be a delay with a purpose. Or maybe it's time to acknowledge that you don't want it as much as you think you do, or you say you do, or you think you should.
I love this. Auntie Lou says, you may not need as much money as you think. Think outside of the American box.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's kind of a theme. We said that a ton of times. Now, someone messaged me and they said, but what if you can't get your significant other on board? So you ready to go? I mean, we just leaving folks? Because I mean, maybe that's the case. But
I tell you all the time,
you know how significant I guess.
How significant are they? But okay, so I'm not one to break up a happy home. Is it a happy home? Right? Like, are you guys on the same bandwidth? Do you want the same things? I understand not being able to convince someone to take the step you want to take, but are they giving you reasons, or are we just like, nah, I'm not open to it? Is it that like they're really close to their family and they don't want to leave their family? Or are we just like, nah, it's not for me? I'm like, I can't tell you how to get anyone else on board. People do it all the time. Black women are leading their partners overseas at a record rate. They're just like, all right, this is the plan. We're going to do this. Boom, 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 boom. If you cannot get your partner on board, we're going to say for now, right? You can't get your partner on board now. It may be something you wait. It may be something you change your mind on. Maybe something you do alone in the future. But I'm going to tell you, like, I had a client who was like, oh, her son was 17. And he was like, you can move abroad if you want to. I'll just go live with grandma. And I was like, so what are you waiting for? Like that man said, that young man told you.
He planning
you have a dream
anyway. He 2 steps out the door. So
you have a dream. He now doesn't want to part of your dream. He's saying, go. And you're like, no, I can't leave him. Okay, girl. Right? Like, you're choosing not to. But I want to know if you're choosing not to now and you're going to choose another no in a year, right? Like in a year, are you going to have another reason to say no? She did. Because sometimes it's not, we allow the external to our individual self. We allow the external a loud voice because they're speaking what we don't want to speak, right? She wasn't ready to go, but next year she had another excuse. And I was like, girl, it's fine. But like, you're not going to, if every time we talk about this, there's another reason. She was a college professor and she was like, I don't want to leave she was the only Black professor in her department. I don't want to leave my Black students alone.
Child, we all right.
Okay. But like,
we out here making it. We are.
You also don't want to be in America. So which one is more important? Because there will always be Black students, right? And until that school hires, so are you going to stay around until they hire a new Black professor, which they might not do until you leave anyway, right?
They got to quote. They got to keep. Hey, we got this. We got the one.
But they might be just saying, at least we got one, right? And they might not hire another one until you leave. So is it going to be 10 years? Like, what is it? So I'm telling you that I know women who convince their partners to go, and they do it. I'm going to say, if you cannot convince your partner, it sounds like you guys are not on the same, you're obviously not on the same page about that. If it's something you really, really want, I'm going to say, consider whether it's something you want to do alone. If it's not, if you're like, no, this is my homie for life, right? Sounds like you're not going.
But it might even be one of those where when you said, okay, it can be as short as a month. And you say, let's try it.
Right?
Like, let's try it. See how you feel. We gonna go on out here enjoying.
Right.
We'll save all our vacation days. We're gonna put it around some month where it's a bunch of holidays, like whatever that is. And then we're gonna go and see how we feel.
And yes, I want someone to bring all those ideas to the table when they're talking to their partner. How can we make it work? Because a lot of times what happens is the reluctant partner goes overseas and they're like, oh, you ain't telling me it was going to be like this.
Like, wait, we going that far? We doing that much?
Right. Sometimes that's what gets them on board. But sometimes we have partners that are going to tell us no for every configuration of our dream, right? For every way you could say, let's just do a month. Let's do 3 weeks. Let's go. Oh, you don't want to leave your parents? Let's go somewhere close. Let's do something else. They're going to say no for reasons valid or not, right? I'm not saying these aren't valid reasons. I'm saying, I don't know. And if that's the case you're in, you have choices to make.
Now, for folks who, they like, I can't be that far away from my mom and all that. Now, your mom is moving as well.
She moved to Merida, Mexico last month.
So how was that process? Like, how did she come to say, I'm ready to go too?
She came to visit me in Mexico City a few times, and she loved being in Mexico because the stress level she feels is so different than what she felt. She was living in Florida, feeling that she felt in Florida. So she would come visit me, and then she'd call me like, I'm in the post office. I just left the post office, and everyone was so angry and yelling, and they were all mean to each other. And I was like, yeah, doesn't happen out here, right? Like there's a level of tension, an undercurrent that kind of goes through American society because of the way our lives are structured that you don't see in a lot of other places. So without knowing it, your stress level goes down because you're not around angry people all the time, right? Where else are people shooting up? Everywhere.
Every day. Ain't no place. Not church, not school, not the grocery store.
Right?
Yeah.
And so she came to visit me a few times. She loved it here. She loved the feeling of being in Mexico, but she is a Jamaican and she needed room to plant trees and the mangoes and the pears and this and that. And so she wanted to live in a place where she could have a yard. And it's really hard to have one here. And it's not the best climate for growing things, I don't think. So she'd gone in some of the different expat groups. She heard everyone saying really nice things about Merida. She went to visit it and she loved it. So it was, even though I talk about this all the time, hi mom, I don't know if you're still here. She was here when we started, but she ignored all of my advice. I'm not going to get into the details now. I'm just going to shame her publicly by saying this. She has a daughter who does this for a living. And she was like, I hear what you're saying, but I'm going to do something else. And so mistakes were made, but she still feels like Merida is her place. Merida is where she wants to be. She loves the environment there. It's really hot. She likes the heat. She told me Florida wasn't warm enough. And I'm like, girl, take a nap. Like what? So Mexico City wasn't for her. She found a place that's for her. I'll see her when I see her. She's a 2-hour flight now. She was a 3-hour flight before.
And I think that's one is a good point because you like, I don't want to be away from my mom and them. Maybe your mom and them need to move too. Because I always talk about your parents might be the reason that you're gonna be broke. Because you got to take care of them. If you got to take care of them in their retirement because they failed to plan, come on, y'all. Y'all gonna have to come too.
And I think that's a really good point because a lot of times what happens is the people who are trying to talk you out of your dream are trying to talk you out of it for selfish reasons, to be perfectly blunt. Like I had a client who was like, I can't go because I take care of my mom and she doesn't want to move abroad. Do you have brothers and sisters? Yes, I have 5 brothers and sisters. So she has other places, other people she can live with if she needs to live with a child. Yes, but she wants to live with me. So your mom wants to live with you. And she's telling you that while she wants to live with you taking care of her, you cannot move abroad. So she's going to be the reason you're unhappy, huh? Okay. Like, so you're not living your dream because you're the only responsible child.
And you can't wait until your parents, I hate to say, pass away to go ahead and do what you want to do. Like,
I was like, tell her she don't have a choice. Like you're moving and she can come with you or she can go live with one of her other kids. Like,
hey, mama, what you gonna do?
Like you're allowing her to get everything she wants while you get nothing you want. That's a choice you can make. But that's why I say, like, when we're talking about our families, it gets a little harder, especially for Black women, because we're seen as the caretakers. And a lot of the people who are in the place to have this discussion are the ones who are the responsible children in their family. The responsible daughters in their family are coming like, I just need a break. Of course you do, baby. You've been taking care of everybody for like 30 years. And now they still don't want you to go because then they're going to have to take care of themselves.
And y'all know strokes are killing Black women. A lot of times caused by stress. I tell my story all the time. If y'all haven't heard my story about my sister who had a stroke at 39, she has never walked since. Like,
never?
Not since.
How long has it been?
We are now in 3 years.
Wow.
At the age of 39. So, and this is a good question because I remember when my sister had a stroke and I'm thinking about, and I talked to her and she was like, when I turned 40. And so as you're like putting that date in mind and you're like, it's going to be, somebody said when she turned 50, you know, all those kind of things. How far is too far to say that's going to be the date? Because I'm going to be doing some wild stuff. Because I was like, listen, my sister had all these plans. Now I got to.
I don't think there's a date that's too far if your current life isn't painful, right? But if you're in a space where you're like, I hate everything and everybody, you know what I mean? Like, what can you do now to create action? And so what I'll say is, even if it's a decade, even if it's 10 years away, that's not too far. If you're like, this isn't bad, my day-to-day is not bad, and I'm creating a plan and I'm working the plan, right? But if you're like, I could murder my boss today, right? If you're like, if this comes in talking crazy to me one more time,
I get that chime from Teams one more again.
If you are on the edge, a decade's gonna be too long, baby. Like, what can we do? Like, what can we do now, right? And maybe that's getting a different job, or maybe that's adjusting something, working less hours. Maybe that's creating stronger boundaries at work. But what can you do now that is not a break? Or like take a month off. A lot of us have been in jobs for a long time and have the right to take a sabbatical of some sorts. A lot of us don't know because we don't read our employee manuals, right? Like I had a client who took 3 months off paid and didn't know because she never read the employee manual. In fact, no one knew because no one read the employee manual. And so when she took it to her boss, they were like, okay, like we can't say no because it's there. It's
They
written
were
right
like, we
there.
made that for one particular person.
Probably.
Now you trying to take it.
We put that in for one particular person and we've never seen it before. Or we copied and pasted our policies from somewhere else and never read them. But she was like, it's right there. And they were like, yes, it is right there. Enjoy your paid break. Right? So do the things you can do now, whether that's taking off a little bit more time, whether that is adjusting something in some way. But like, if your blood pressure is high, if you're on the verge of a stroke,
if somebody
do something today,
stroke, like that's enough.
Right. do like, something today to improve your situation, because waiting a year might be too long. Like you know what I mean? Like your sister didn't know when it was going to happen.
And I will say the symbolism in this, if you've been here a while, you've probably heard the story a whole bunch of times because I talk about estate planning and how important it is. Mm-hmm. But my sister had her stroke in the bathroom of her job.
Oh, no.
And it's like the symbolism of it all, of just really just, and that's why I grab my purse. I'd be like, I'm gonna go and get my nails done for the third time this week. Like, I'm just
to get out of here.
Yeah, I'm gonna go head out. Yeah.
Did she go back to working there?
She hasn't. She can't work at this point. So yeah, her entire life is forever changed.
And do you know how long before they replaced her?
You know what? So this is one of the things. And I told a story about this guy who literally dropped dead in the office. But people talk about how close their coworkers are and all this kind of stuff. Her coworkers brought us food. So, we're all at the house. So like, oh, pizza on Monday. Oh, they brought us burgers on Tuesday. 2 weeks later, we ain't eating. That's it. Mm-hmm. It was like, this was cool. This is fun.
I signed up for one shift.
Yeah, like
I signed up for one
shift. Casserole on Wednesday. I ain't bringing another casserole. So, yeah, I mean, I have yet to see those people again. I'm quite sure they was like, she did have that good. She had the good paper over there, and she had that nice pen, and yeah, I'm quite sure if that occurred because. Even if you were just quitting your job, like you don't talk to those people anymore anyway. They'd be like, okay, that was cool. Thanks. I might look you up on LinkedIn or something, but.
One of my coworkers said something about us being friends. And I was like, oh, baby. Like when one of us leaves, we're never going to speak again. And we didn't. No. We didn't. Like I enjoy you immensely. I love talking to you in department meetings, but I've never been to your home. You've never been to mine.
Yeah. I mean, I can go to coffee with anybody. Like you're easily, whoever show up next, whoever sit in that seat, they can go to coffee too. Like even if that was coffee, I'd be like, you want tea? Like,
he was claiming me as his Black friend. And I was like, baby, let me tell you something. If I'm your Black friend, you don't have Black friends.
Yeah.
Like he tried to say he had Black friends because I'm friends with you. And I was like, oh no, wait.
You gonna take me home to meet you.
This is going to be really awkward.
And we're coworkers. We're colleagues.
We are co-workers.
Yeah.
I do not see you outside of the office. We are not friends.
No.
Thank you, Blake.
You don't know my mama name or nothing. Like you just no. 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 You don't know what I do on the weekends because on the weekends I tell y'all the same stuff. I was cleaning up.
It's nothing.
Doing some chores.
I got back once and they were like, show us use the projector and show us photos from your vacation. It's not working.
I'm like, I got one picture.
It's not working.
I got this one on the mountain.
Oh, just hung out. Nothing really. We're not.
Show you pictures of my dog because the dog is always safe. I'm gonna show you.
We're not.
I got a folder full of pictures of my dog. That's what you can do.
I said, my boss would ask me that every time. Show us pictures. I'd be like, baby, what don't you understand about what's happening here?
And I don't even have work email on my personal cell phone.
You don't have work email?
On my personal cell phone.
That's the best way to go.
When I get back and sit down, I respond. But until then,
someone in my department gave my personal cell phone number out to someone else in the business while I was on vacation. The way everybody got cussed out and my personal cell phone got removed. So there could be a fire in this department. Don't call me, call the fire department. The way none of y'all have access to my number anymore.
Send me an email. I'll get it when I return. An email to the email. Yeah.
Don't you ever. Why would you? I'm on vacation and you're calling me about, because you don't think I'm allowed to have boundaries. You don't think that I'm allowed to be like, this is my time.
Because it's ownership. It is. Yeah. It's definitely that feeling of ownership. And it's like, no, that's not going to work. You know?
I didn't call to check in, right? And you tell me what's going on because I don't care, right?
Y'all got it. I trust y'all. You're competent and capable. You got it. You good.
You got it. And if you don't, let that be a reminder to treat me with respect and care when I come back.
Let that be a reminder to cross train.
Yes.
Somebody need to learn this before next time, because somebody.
One of my favorite moments at work was when I had a coworker who left. The guy who said I was his friend left, and our immediate boss had also left. So our big boss from another city, headquarters, came in and was like, okay. He talked to everybody else in the department and was like, this is how we're divvying up the work. And then he came to me last and he said out of his mouth, I came to you last because your job and his job are the most alike. They weren't. They were completely different fields, but I'm a smart and capable Negro, so throw something on my back. This man said, because your jobs are most alike, I'm going to give you 80% of his work. There were 3 other people. So with 3 people, you divided up 20% of the work. And me, you gave 80% of the work.
You're a donkey. Put it on your back.
I was like, I know you can fire me. Except you can't replace me because y'all didn't cross-train and no one else had done my job. But also, absolutely not. I was like, oh, you have to go back and talk to them. The people that you told what they were doing, you have to go back and talk to them.
Tell them some new stuff. Yeah.
I would feel like if you planned on giving me 80% of the work, you would come to me first and not out your mouth say, I came to you last because you're giving me 80% of the work. I wasn't getting 80% of his paycheck.
Wasn't getting nothing more of his paycheck. They like, here's pizza.
I wasn't going to get nothing. I already wasn't getting paid what he was paying anyway, right? He's a white man with kids, so of course he's making more than I am. You want to give me 80% of his work for an undefined period of time.
Forever.
We hire someone.
But they ain't going to hire nobody. They like, we going to say.
If I'm doing the work effectively, y'all not going to hire nobody.
They ain't going to hire nobody. They're going to be like, oh, you got it.
I told that man to go back and reconfigure some shit because I would not. Absolutely. I would not be doing that. Absolutely.
Once you get your money right, you can speak up a little bit more. You'd be like, you know what? I don't need to be here no way.
I think I said to him, like, do you hear what you're asking me to do? Like 100% of my job and 80% of someone else's job. Because you think I'm good enough to do it? Am I good enough to be getting paid more than anybody else in the department? Because I don't think you think that.
Yeah, no. He tried it. He tried it because he thought you were going to be like, I need this job. Sir, please don't fire me. I'll take on all the work and work on all the weekends, federal holidays, state holidays, on the Martin Luther King holiday.
I was like, that was an interesting plan.
Yeah.
Whoa, absolutely not. Like, why would you, like the fact that you have no shame saying I'm giving you 80% of his work. When my job is already harder than any of the other people who are remaining, I do more work than all of them. And you're giving me 80% of someone else's work? You played yourself. I was like, do you not hear the words you're saying?
Mm-hmm. They said it's fine. That was expected.
You came to me last because I would never say no to you, I guess.
Because Black women do not say no. We figure it out. We like, shoot. And I said the worst thing that we have ever done is we make everything look easy.
Mm-hmm.
We killing ourselves, but we making everything look easy. It's rosy for everybody else.
Mm-mm.
And so they're like, she got it. She got it. Yeah, she got 15 kids at home. She got a mama she taking care of. Mm-hmm. She got to cook, clean, all this other stuff. But she got it. She did it seamlessly. Her hair done, nails done, smile on her face. She making it work.
We had other people in the department where like our coworkers would be like, what are they doing all day? Like they're not, We don't know that they actually create any work or do anything. You have whole people who have mystery jobs. You have whole people who have mystery jobs. And between the three of them, you divide up 20% of the work.
I said, we kicking it. We ain't doing that. We just,
Well, guess what? People are going to be disappointed. Very, very disappointed.
And let them be. Let them be. Let
them be. You're not going to run over my boundaries and have me drop dead at work. You're not going to run over my boundaries and have me be sick because I'm holding into the stress that I can't do 180% of work with 100% time. That's just not possible. You're not going to let the work for my clients suffer. I'm not going to be able to tell my clients, sorry, this work isn't getting done because I'm doing that work over there, because they don't care. And they've told you 1,000 times they don't care. But you don't want the work to suffer. You want me to give you the same high quality work. Like you said, working evenings, working weekends, right? Like, I'm a Black woman who doesn't have a family. So what else would I be doing but giving my life to the job?
Child.
The man learned that day. You ask somebody else. I have a tech company, and an employee said to me, an employee who tried to get me to do something that he could do it. And it was his job to do. Or there was a workaround where I could do it. So he came to me like, I'd love it if you did this. And I was like, no, I won't. This child looked me in my face and was like, you're very good at saying no. And I was like, take that as a lesson. Don't hit me with the BS. Like, you're trying to get me to do your work and you think I was going to say yes to that? It's your responsibility.
I believe in you. You are capable.
I don't believe in you, or you wouldn't have come here with this. But I don't care. I think at a certain time, we have to separate ourselves from the outcome. A lot of times we want the team to win because then we all look good, right? Like, oh no, this project, I have to stay late because we're working on this project. You're not getting paid.
But they
the lowest paid person on the team. I ain't
going to fail without your input. But
right?
It's some other folks that can work late.
It's some other folks who could do it. It's some other folks. And you stressing me out, thinking I'm going to kill myself at this desk because we got to make more widgets and more dingle bobbles. No, I don't.
See, Dash, she said she hated that because she was single with no kids. You know what? I stopped putting the explanation on things. I would just say, I'm not able. Sorry, I'm not available.
No.
I have other. No. I just not even. No, I'm not available that day. I have another engagement.
No.
No, can't do that. Oh, not this time. No.
No.
Yeah. I mean, but y'all got a wife at home. Can't she do some stuff and y'all can, go to the event and, I got to pick up my own dry cleaning and my own grocery shopping and stuff.
I don't have someone to do the things at home. So and there are always things to do at home. So I got to work, we have to work double, triple time. You know what? I was like,
I got to head out because the grocery store closed. And I mean,
it's a
gotta
no.
get there. So I gotta get on out of here.
It's a no. What did I say? Good fences make good neighbors. Good boundaries at work can save you, right? Being able to say, that was a lovely idea, but here's why it's not going to work, right? I see what you were doing, but
I think we can come up with another option. We brainstorm that. Take that back. Yeah, Dash says that's actually a form of discrimination. And it so much is. If it was the other way around and you were like, oh, the people with kids need to stay later, they'd be like, what?
How dare you?
Nah, my dog at home waiting. He hey, it's time to go. I got to go for a walk.
I'm not
waiting on us.
Right? I'm not eating dinner here. So I'm going to go. I'm going to head out. Yeah. Right? I'm going to head out because no.
I already got my purse. So, I mean, I can't put it down.
Also, sometimes I feel like a jerk when I say this, but you're not curing cancer. I'm not curing cancer. None of us are. All of these emergencies, all of these we have to get this done. What happens if we don't?
And if you're curing cancer, get on it. Because I mean, You need to put in some more hours. It ain't just this conversation.
You are the missing link between you and us and the cure. Yes.
Yeah. This
But if
conversation.
you're in a lab with 12 other people and they're not carrying their weight and they're asking you to do more, take a break. This happens a lot in families too. The responsible daughter does all the work, and so other people don't have to. You can see it in the office too. You do all the extra stuff. You take the notes in the meetings. You make sure there's breakfast on Friday. You do all the things.
You remember everybody's birthday. Ain't no cupcake from me.
And if you're the one who remembers everybody's birthday, who remembers yours?
Child, nobody. No.
Who?
Mm-hmm.
And so having those boundaries and being able to say, no, with no explanation, no, you're not volunteering me to what my boss would always volunteer us for committees, and then would be there like,
no,
you want how much more work out of for what?
No, yeah, no, not available.
Yeah, so no, like I loved having strong boundaries at work. Like absolutely not. And once you start maintaining strong boundaries, people start recognizing that, and I'm not gonna say they respect it, but they tend to not push back against them, right? If you know I'm gonna tell you no to asking me to do your work, you're probably not gonna ask me to do your work. But if you saw me do his work, you're probably gonna ask me to do your work too.
Exactly, because you clearly you do. And KB, you just said this, it made me mad. Just reading it made me mad. She said she had someone call on her vacation to suggest they meet for lunch to make a new coworker feel welcome.
I'll meet her when I get back.
Chat.
What? When I get back.
Did you call me on my? Listen, I need another vacation day because I just worked today. I took a work call, i.e., I worked. I'm gonna add another day because I'm really working on my vacation.
So all this to say, hi friends, Exodus Summit.
Yes.
We're talking about income streams.
Like again,
the best thing about my life is I run a business, but I only talk to people I want to talk to. All those terrible people I used to deal with, I don't talk to them anymore. They don't exist to me. Who, what, where? I don't know them people, right? And so I want that for you too. I don't talk to white men ever. I don't. Like, where would I come in contact with them? What would happen? I see them in the streets of Mexico City and I'm like,
hey, from a distance.
My life revolves around Black women and joy and bringing more joy to Black women. And so I want you to see if there's a way that you can do that too, right? Because I can tell you stories until I'm blue in the face of how much shit I put up with at work. But I didn't know how bad it was until I got out, right? And so I want you to get out too so that you can say, this is the life I want. I want this joy. This is how I want to build my life. This is how I want to feel. My current business revolves around how I want to feel. I want life to feel easy. And so I create easy things. I want that for you too.
And see, we always end and we ask, what does financial independence look like for you? I'm not going to ask you that. I'm going to ask you, what do you want your long-term impact to be?
Can I phone a friend? I want to help more Black women be free and feel free, right? That's what I want my long-term impact to be. I want Black women to say, 20 years ago, I talked to a woman named Roshida, and like, I've been on the beach drinking coconuts ever since, right? Or like, I didn't know I could do this, and now because of Exodus Summit, I do. And it changed my family's trajectory. Like, me and my kids are living the life of our dreams. I'm homeschooling them around the world now, because if that's what you want for your kids, I want that for you too, right? Me and my partner, we are, we go scuba diving to a new island in Thailand every weekend and then work, 9 months out of a year or 6 months out of a year. That's what I want. And so I have certain communities, like my program for Burnout to Bliss. We have a group coaching program, and in it, we get such great ideas from women. Like I met a woman who was like, she's a doctor, and she was going, but I don't think that part matters. She was taking contract roles where she could work for 6 months and then be off for 6 months, work for 6 months and be off for 6 months. And maybe it looks different for you. Maybe you take a contract role where you work for 2 months and you're off for a month, or work for a month, off for 2 months, whatever that looks like for you. Being in communities where women are talking about these out of the box options that they're pursuing helps give you ideas. And that's what I want more. That's what I want my legacy to be, that I helped Black women see the possibilities that they hadn't seen before.
I love it.
Thank you.
Make sure you click on the link, head on over to Access Summit, sell them feet pictures. Get your money.
Get residency. We have a tax expert coming because, baby, an expat tax expert. You don't want to get that wrong.
Yeah.
You don't want to get that wrong. We've got people talking about freelance writing, e-commerce, working abroad for an international company. We have Airbnb hosts, and we have someone who's going to talk about investing in real estate without being a landlord, which sign me up, because I don't actually, I don't want to talk to people.
I don't want to talk about my tennis rate.
We let it go. For tonight, we let it go.
Yeah.
Let it flow away.
Yeah.
All right.
So until next time.
Yes.
Thank you, Roshida.
Thank you for having me here.
Thank you all. And then see you all at the Exodus Summit.
Yeah, see you there. Bye, guys. Thanks for having me.